We are so excited to have as our guest Tara Ballman. Do you wonder what aging in place really means? Well, it's much more than just living at home, that's for sure. The dynamics of becoming older and the adult child of an aging parent have definitely changed. Did you know that over 10,000 people each day are turning 65? And actually, I read today that this year in 2024, it could be over 11,000 people per day who become 65. Tara is passionate about connecting and supporting professionals who are serving adults. She's worked in the aging services market since 2003. She must have been a child, written 5 books on aging related topics, and co hosts a podcast focused on successful aging in place. Her latest publication, Difficult Aging in Place Conversations: What Industry Experts Have to Say, rose to #1 in the aging and geriatrics category on Amazon. Congratulations, Tara, for another great book. Tara currently serves in a leadership role as the National Aging in Place Council, where she brings professionals and communities together to champion aging in place through collaboration, education, and advocacy. And I want to be sure we touch on the advocacy. Yeah. She's also Aging in Place Development Manager at Longbridge Financial. Her latest book, Difficult Aging in Place Conversations: What Industry Experts Have to Say, is available on Amazon. But hold on, at the end of the show, we're going to tell you how you can get a free copy of Aging in Place Conversations by Tara. So stay tuned. You're going to hear today that's much more than just living at home. Technology, transportation, and I don't want to spoil the show. So let's just hear it direct from Tara. Tara, welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me on today. I look forward to spending the next hour with you talking about aging in place and maybe changing the way people think about it and giving you some new tools and solutions to help make the journey safer and easier.
Well, I certainly have learned a lot in the last few months since I first came to know Tara and some other people who specialize in this. But it seems that so many things in life start with a story. So many of us have a story, something that happens in our lives that causes us to change direction or take on a new project or do something different. Tara, can you share with us your personal story or experience that sparked your passion for caring about aging in place?
Yes, absolutely. I'm happy to. I'll try to do it without getting emotional because it always makes me a little bit of emotional. It's related to my father, who just last month was his 14-year anniversary of his passing. So he is the one that got me into this world, into this space. I actually went to school in Nashville. I wanted to be in the music industry. I studied music business. My first job out of school, I worked for CMT, the television station, CMT and TNN, it was called back in the day. And eventually took a job working with the Army at Fort Hood, Texas, in the MWR department. So we were doing education and concerts and events for soldiers and their families. And we were talking about the fateful phone call. That's when I got my phone call that my father had cancer. And it really kind of just changed the course of my life in many different ways, one of which I moved back to Florida eventually. He had gone through the treatment the first time and was tired of being retired. He got bored. So he went and got his broker's license, became a realtor, and got into reverse mortgages back in the early 2000s, right before it was, it kind of is more popular now than it used to be back in the day. Things were a lot different back then. So I came to work for him. I quit my job. I worked part-time for my mom, who had a publishing company, and then I worked part-time for my dad, helping him get his business set up, processing his loans, doing his marketing, his advertising. And back in those days, there wasn't a lot of information out there. So that's actually when I wrote my first book on reverse mortgage. It's called The Reverse Mortgage Handbook. It was all my father's idea. I give him credit for it every day. It's in the dedication page. I thank you, Dad, for this great idea. I fought it for years. And I didn't really have an excuse because my mom was a publisher. So I had the means to do it. I had the avenue. But I finally did it. And it was really, I took all the mortgagee letters and put them in order and really learned as much as I could about the reverse mortgage product and the industry from the beginning to the end, the good, the bad, the ugly. And then I put it in a book. I broke it down into basic language, completely education related, not sales at all. So that's how I first got into this industry. And then I wrote a second book that was really focused on training reverse mortgage professionals on how to deal with older adults and, the different ways to deal with someone in their 80s versus someone in their 20s. And so I took this journey along with my father for years and years. I eventually got a job, left Florida, moved to California. Unfortunately, he got sick again. My family, he moved to Georgia to be closer to my brother and his family, but he never really quite recovered from that. And there was a time back during the recession, I lost my job. I was unemployed for a year, and looking back on it, it was honestly, it was a blessing in disguise because every day for the last year of my father's life, I got to talk to him. Every day he called to check on me. Every day, I had a little piece of him that I wouldn't have had otherwise. And we had this whole different relationship at the end than we did when I'm a child, when you're younger versus when you're in your 20s, you have a different relationship with your parents. So, he passed away in a new town, and my parents had just moved. He was building a house for them, my mom's final aging in place house. So my mom was living in an unfinished house. They didn't have a community support them. They didn't have doctors. All the doctors were new. The hospital system was new. And it just, in the end days, we had some tough times and ultimately had to make the decision to pull him off of life support. And that's, such a hard decision for a family, but also in a new environment with no support around you. So that's what motivates me now, is to help other families find the resources they need and not wait until there's a crisis and you're limited to what your options are versus if you started planning ahead of time and, just hopefully help people not have the same tears and heartache that my family had to go through. So that's my why, but it all goes back to my father. And so I hope I make him proud today with everything I'm doing, because it all goes back to him.
Oh, I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do. I'm sure he looks down on you every day and is so proud of you. I mean, you've accomplished so much. And not very many people get into reverse mortgages who then end up having a heart for it and write and do some of the things. And I want to touch on that after a while. But first of all, I want to lay a little bit of groundwork. So tell us, what is the National Aging in Place Council, and what in the world is aging in place?
Gosh, well, I could talk about this for the whole entire hour.
I've got so many things I want to talk to you about.
I know.
We're going to have to talk real fast, or we're going to have more time.
We'll have a part 2. I'll come back.
Okay, that'd be great.
So the National Aging in Place Council, we're really a nonprofit trade association of professionals in the aging services marketplace. So we've been around for over 18 years, and our mission is education, collaboration, and advocacy. So we are built on what we consider the 5 pillars of aging, which is housing, healthcare, finance, transportation, and social engagement. So all of our members really fall under one of those 5 pillars. So we have everything from orthopedic surgeons to mobile dog walkers, and everything in between. My husband and I here in Orange County, we have a company called Homeworks Physical Therapy. So we do PT, OT in patients' homes instead of having a facility. So just by default, we deal with older adults. So you'll find a lot of people like that, just anyone helping you age easier in your home. And I think a lot of people think aging in place is aging in the home you've spent your whole life in and you raise your children. But that's kind of I would say, an old definition of aging in place. A more modern definition is determining where you want to live and how you want to live your final days. And maybe that's in the home where you are. Maybe you're going to right size, which is the new term. Maybe you're buying a larger house or a smaller house or closer to your family or closer to doctors. So really knowing what all of your options are within those 5 pillars and creating a plan is what aging in place is. And when that plan is no longer safe or financially viable anymore, you know where you're going next, where your best advice isn't spend down all your money and become a ward of the state, where you actually know the steps that you can take to protect yourself. So I get excited talking about aging in place. And now with all the changes that are coming and people staying at home longer and the hospital systems and the Medicare situation that's happening and all of these PACE programs that are popping up and hospital at home, I think it's even more important than ever to kind of think about what you want. It hasn't traditionally been a fun thing to talk about, getting old and dying and what your wishes are, but you can make it as fun as you want it to be. It can still be fun and exciting and even more adventurous than when you're in your 20s and slugging through life and working and creating this nest egg that now you get to spend. If you're one of the fortunate ones that live long enough or privileged to live long enough to spend it. So
I think that there's several elements here, and you brought them up, and I'm fortunate, you and I are fortunate enough to still experience them, that we have. It used to be when people were certainly my age, they were old already. You know, when my in-laws came to my wedding, they were 10 years younger than I am, and I thought they were old. And I'm 10 years older than that now. I don't think I'm old at all. So what I find fascinating and interesting, and that I think really deserves a lot more attention right now, is, I'm sure you'll agree, is that we have people my age who we call the adult children of aging parents, and the challenges that we go through and our involvement. And I certainly didn't think that ever would be a role that I had to take on. But like you, I got the call. All of a sudden, I had to take care of my father in a situation. My mom and dad were totally independent until that phone call. And all of a sudden, I had to be involved in my dad's life and all these decisions. And my mom's 104. Your mom isn't that old, but your mom's still alive. So we find ourselves now in that position where we are the adult children. And then we have people who are my age and a little bit older than me, who are still very healthy and very active. And they don't think they're old, and they don't think of themselves having to make those decisions. And then we have people who are even my age and slightly older, who are older. And for whatever reason, either it's medical or it's physical or it's just their lifestyle, then they have to be taken care of and be making those decisions. So it seems to me that's increased the attention that's needed to this, right? Because we don't just automatically go from your age to old.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah. And really the definition of old, like you said, is different. Now there's super seniors like your mother who are living past 100, and she's probably, who knows how many more years she could live. And that's a whole nother issue that people weren't thinking about, is longevity and outliving their money. And now what are they going to do? There's a whole nother set of issues that pop up.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, so tell me, who becomes a member of National Aging in Place Council? Who are your people?
So these are all professionals who are really just interested in giving back to the community through education. It's organizations, it's nonprofits, it's corporations, and we're really focused on a national level, from the national office, just really educating our members on the products and services that are out there. And then we have about 18 chapters across the country, and we're growing like crazy, by the way. I had today a new chapter interest meeting with 57 people participating from different areas across the country. Yeah. So it's exploding right now. Our local chapters are the ones really going into the senior centers and the libraries and our local communities and doing the boots on the ground education. So here in Orange County, we have a chapter. There's one in San Diego. There's one forming in LA. So we do have a lot of events here in this local market, but then across the nation, we have them as well. Chicago is our largest chapter, Long Island, New York, Atlanta. It's spreading. So you'll find many resources out there.
So one of the things that was interesting to me is that you don't let just anybody in your group.
True.
So tell me, how do you screen people? I mean, normally an organization like yours, people just have to join, and there's an annual fee or something. And sometimes they have to take a There's some kind of a certification that goes with it, but you do something beyond that. Tell us about that.
We do, and it's the one requirement that we refuse to waive ever in the history of our organization, and that's a background check. So anyone that applies for membership, before we list them on our website as a resource for older adults, we make sure that they have no criminal history, they have no crimes against older adults, no financial crimes. Somebody asked me the other day, he was up in Northern California. He goes, "Oh, well, I got in trouble in 1960 because I got caught smoking weed, blah, blah, blah." That's not the kind of thing we're looking for, but I was appreciative that you disclosed it.
In the 60s, I know, in the 60s, if you weren't smoking weed, you weren't alive, right? So
and you weren't trusted.
I wasn't, but a lot of my friends were.
So those are the kind of things we're looking for. But, we just want to keep our older adults safe and really make sure the ones that we're sending out there are the most credible in the industry. And so we require that background check upon application, and then every 3 years, we require new information to be submitted. And really, we're a very close-knit community, and we're all about helping each other. And it's really interesting. Sometimes people think, "Oh, well, I only work in Orange County, so why would I need a national resource?" But then they got a call from a person whose mother was in Spain, fell and broke her hip and needed to get back. If she had passed away, it's easy to get a body back, but because she had medical issues that came with it, they were having the hardest time. 3 phone calls, we found her a way to come back. So just having those kind of resources, even when you think you don't need it, just having that there as a safety net is so helpful.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So we were, I think about that often because so many of us, that as I call myself in that role as the adult child of an aging parent, we're all over the place. And I might have, our child lives here, but you might have a child that lives in another state, and all of a sudden they get the call and they don't know what to do or they haven't had to be involved in their parents' life, wasn't necessary, and they really don't know what to do. So having this resource, can anyone go to your website then and just pretty much look up what they need, or would they call someone first?
Yes, absolutely. You could call us, but the easiest way to go about it is our website, which is ageinplace.org. So you can search by area, you can search by need, by region. Also, if you happen to be on social media, if you go on our Facebook page, we have all of our presentations, all of the educational presentations up there that we've done in the past. So it's interesting the things we have up there and coming. I'll just say our next member meeting is the 3rd Thursday of every month. We have a gentleman talking about the Thrive Pavilion. Are you familiar with the
About the what?
Thrive Pavilion? It's
but it sounds fascinating.
Online senior center in the metaverse. And so he's got a community of 1,500 older adults who go in the metaverse and they do lifelong learning. They have golf tournaments, they do tennis, they do exercise. And it's also a lot of people who are caring for loved ones with dementia who can't get out of the house. They have this whole support community there. They meet at the rock garden and talk about gardening or book clubs.
And it's the Thrive community?
It's called the Thrive Pavilion, and it's in the metaverse. So you have to have the ocular glasses to go in, and you make your VR character. And I think things like that are super fun and exciting. And that's within that social engagement column where you might be homebound, you might be stuck at home, but you can still play golf. You can still have a book club. You can still have wine sampling. Everyone has wine shipped to their house and you all try it together in your virtual room. There's so many fun things out there.
That sounds amazing. So what do you think are some of the common misconceptions about aging in place?
Well, I think that you have to stay where you are to be considered aging in place is a big misconception. You can right size your home and really create something that's like a Jetsons world. I tell people we're living in a Jetsons world now. We just don't realize it because what was the robot's name? Rosie. We don't physically have that Rosie here, but those kind of things are happening. So I think that's exciting. And making aging in place improvements, another misconception is that my home's going to look like a hospital. It's going to reduce its sellable value. It's going to look like old people live here. No one wants an old person's home, you know? And that's just not true. I don't know if you've seen any of these just bathroom modifications, grab bars that don't look like grab bars. They're just beautiful. And there's a new toilet seat that's out there called the Kasana toilet. And it is a smart toilet. It goes on top of your seat, and it can read your blood pressure, your heart rate, and your pulse, all just by you sitting on the toilet. And the most fascinating part to me is based on the way that you sit and stand up with the AI technology, it can tell the second your balance is off, the second you become a fall risk. So then maybe you do need to put in a grab bar. You don't have to redo the whole bathroom. You just need to stabilize yourself in certain areas. And you can slowly make those changes instead of spending 30 or 50 or however much money it costs now to make those modifications. So, it's not all or nothing, but I do want people to use professionals, because those suction cup grab bars, like, they should be outlawed and illegal and taken from every store, because like, if they were safe, they would be in hospitals. They're not safe. Don't use them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's a whole nother topic that we could get into.
Yeah.
So how can we better discuss those? I think a challenge is to discuss these with our children or our families, because we have two issues. We have the people who are actually older who realize they need some care. Like, my mom still lives on her own, but she needs grab bars. Okay. So we have to, but some people don't want to live in an old home. I'm fine. I can get along fine until they fall. Right. And then we have the children who are far away. So how can we address this? Do you sit down with people? Do you have community workshops? How do you get them to start thinking about the concept of aging in place for themselves?
Yes, well, we do all of that. We do the workshops, the community workshops. You can find things online, even through the senior centers in your local area. But I really think the most important thing is just to get the conversation started. And that's why we publish the books. And we also have on our website, if people want to download it, it's called the Act 3 Planning Guide. It's completely free. It's a 24-page checklist, and it walks you through those 5 pillars and gives you just topics to consider. It's not all encompassing, but it will start a conversation, and it makes it less awkward for a family member, say when you're talking about the transportation section. That can be a really awkward conversation, mainly because a lot of people wait until it is an issue to have the first conversation instead of making it less uncomfortable to discuss. Do we have more options? What are some other plans we can have? How is your eyesight? Where did that ding come from? And slowly ease into it instead of all or nothing.
It was interesting last week. Our guest was a couple who moved to Arizona as retirees to retire and ended up starting a real estate team and serve the 55 plus community they're in. And one of the questions we had of them is, how do you deal with the families and all this? And they surprisingly told me that a lot of their families actually, their couples actually move from the 55 plus retirement community back to where their kids are. So a lot of their clients are people who are moving back to another place, and their retirement home isn't their final place. And so I find that very interesting, and you must have to deal with that too. So what is aging in place if someone goes from their home to, let's say, assisted living or a board and care home? Do those communities, does the assisted living community pretty much solve all those issues, or are there still other issues that the couple or the person who moves there would have to deal with or think about?
I think that's up to the individual person, and there are some amazing communities where it is all inclusive. Everything's covered. There's nothing that you want. But I think that something that COVID taught us, all of us, is that, some of us couldn't even survive in our own homes for 1 week when we had all of that provided to us. And now we're asking an older adult to spend the rest of their lives years living like that, and everything's just supposed to be fine and okay. I don't think that's the case. So just because you can get it under one roof, maybe you want to change the scenery. Maybe you want things brought to you. Your home is where you lay your head. And if that's in an assisted living facility, maybe you want a mobile hairstylist that's not provided there because she cuts your hair perfectly, or maybe you want someone to teach you how to use those metaverse glasses so you can do online tasting. And they also have so many online resources now for older adults, from travel clubs. My mother-in-law is German. She grew up in Germany. She can't necessarily travel back there, but she can hire a travel guy in Germany who will ride around on his bike with a webcam, drive by the house where she grew up, knock on the door if she asks him to, and politely say, I've got the lady who grew up here 70 years ago who just wants to say hi. So go by her elementary school. So there's a lot of fun ways that you can still age in place and be engaged when you're in a facility. Even if it's everyone's like, we want to stay away from the SNFs, the nursing homes. We can even help you make a nursing home a more enjoyable place. So
That's fascinating. I never heard of or thought about having so you hire a guide, you just go online and you find a guide for that community and they go around and give you a virtual tour.
Yes, I cannot think of the name of the company right now, but I will. They'd make a great guest for your show.
Yes, absolutely. That is amazing. Yeah.
There are a lot of little organizations out there like that, that can just help connect people, like the Loose Ends Project. They were a guest on one of our member meetings last month, and it's a group of crafters, volunteer crafters, who help people when loved ones pass away. They help you finish projects, so blankets and quilts or paintings even. And it's their way of giving back. Joann's, the craft store, is involved and gives discounted supplies to people doing it. And there's just all these little communities that are out there that people just need to be aware of.
This is great. Yeah, I definitely see a second hour with us together coming. So tell me, what are some of the things, and I've got so much more we want to talk about. What were some of the surprising things to you when you started working in especially for the National Aging in Place Council? Was there anything that you'd already been through this a little bit with your father and helped him through the process? Was there anything that you thought, I just never would have known that, or I can't believe people aren't doing something about this?
Yeah, I think it's just the industry as a whole, how uneducated we are, and not on purpose. It's just by default. Say with hospitals and case managers, they are so busy and so overwhelmed. They're just trying to get people discharged. Of course, people are breathing down their backs wanting to get out as well. And then the hospital wants people to be safe. They don't have time to look for resources. They're just photocopying a sheet and sending it out. People think Medicare is going to pay for everything, not knowing any different. Not that the case managers are telling them that, but people just assume when they retire, Medicare pays for it, retirement's going to be there, Social Security, blah, blah, blah. And I don't think it's the case. And, people have blinders on. If they don't talk about it, it's not a problem until it's a problem. Then it's really late.
And I think we call those education-based situations rather than crisis-based.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yes. And there are so many resources out there that can help folks just from a benefit standpoint. There's two resources I can share. So the NCOA has a benefits checkup website. So you can go in, you can enter your zip code, and it tells you all of the benefits available to you in your area based on your age and your location. And the other one is, hold on, it's escaping me now. It'll come back. Benefits.gov. So benefits.gov is all the benefits from the government aspects, where NCOA is everything in your area. So those are two resources I always like to share with folks when I'm chatting. Just pop in your zip code once a year and do it during spring cleaning. Do your own spring aging in place checkup and just make sure things are where they need to be.
That's fascinating. I know certainly I know you too, am always very cautious about who I expose my mom to. And I'm appreciative that the National Aging in Place Council certainly does the background checks, because people like my mom lives in the 50+ community, they have a newsletter, and somebody puts an ad in there and says, I'll come and pray with you. And so my mom says, well, they wouldn't let him advertise in the newsletter if he wasn't a good guy. Well, unfortunately, they do, right? They don't screen those out. So what you provide, with all these other resources, and everybody says, we'll come and do this with volunteers. Do you get worried that they're not, I mean, like, how do you know if you should let them in your home or not?
Yeah, it's, that's why we background check folks, and we have all of these resources really to help people find out, our license valid if in whatever state you're in, and how can we help. And actually there was a big senior Medicare patrol is another resource I share with a lot of people if they have issues with anything related to their Medicare, providers not reimbursing for something basic, saying their insurance was denied when they knew it wasn't. But they also cover things like fraudulent charges, and something that was huge here in Orange County. People were signing up for these ads on TV that were like genetic testing. Oh, and it's free if you give us your Medicare number. Oh, they were giving away their Medicare number, and same at a mall here in Laguna Woods to give away, win a car. Do you need medical advice? Write down your number. They were getting this information stolen because they also provided their name and birth date. They were signed up for hospice, didn't realize they were signed up for hospice till they went to their regular doctors. All those charges got denied because they have to go through hospice because they're signed up. These companies were collecting, I don't know if you know how hospice works, but they get paid monthly by the government if you're signed up. So they were just getting these monthly charges. Nobody was even knowing, collecting thousands and thousands. So the scamming is something really scary that we have to watch out for, these old kind of scams, but now with AI and people impersonating not just voices, but you could do a FaceTime and it looks like you're talking to a real person and it's fake. So we have to be
or the call that they say they get, oh, grandma, I'm in jail, send me your everything you've got in the bank. Right?
Yeah, and we actually had, that's a great example. We had somebody three months ago speak. His company is called Catch AI, and he and his partner, their grandmother, was taken advantage of in the same way, and like $25,000 was stolen from her, and it was all through a email scam. So they created this free product that you can attach to your email that says, is this real or not? Did you really forget to pay your Geek Squad invoice, or is this fake? That was big for a while, those Geek Squad invoices. So
yeah, I still get those.
Yeah.
Or the ones when you forgot to pay your student loan that you never had, right?
Oh, okay. I haven't got that one yet. Maybe because I still have my student loan.
It's probably coming. So let's talk a little bit about technology. There's age tech and future of technology. What are some of the things that are currently there that people may not know about, or what are some of the things coming down the line? I actually read in your book about something that was rather than having the thing around your neck, there's something else that you talked about in your book, technology that people can have in their home that tells, I think it tells it if they fell or something and they can call out to it.
Yes, there's actually a lot of amazing things that are happening on that front that, they have the traditional systems that people think of with the cameras where people feel like they're being spied on. Those are there, obviously, but there are these next level ones now. So there are some sensors that use the same radar as airport towers. So they can tell what plane your body is on if you are bending down to tie your shoe or pet your dog versus falling out of your chair, laying on the floor. If you are on the floor, do you need help getting up? How long have you been there? But then the AI can go into the next level things like, okay, she falls at 10 o'clock every day, but not in the same spot. Maybe there's a medication that's causing her to become dizzy and fall. Or if it's in the same spot, oh, it looks like there's a rug there that mom bought that she forgot to tell people about, and now she's tripping on it. I mean, those things happen, and a tumble, not only is it costly, like $15,000 is the average cost now of a fall. It's the catalyst for so many other problems, right? It could just trigger a lot of other things. So, these sensors, they have those, but also the reverse of that. So my mom, we mentioned she's in Georgia. She has two very large dogs that I know have to go outside every day between 6 and 8 o'clock. So instead of having sensors that tell me what she is doing, it tells me what she's not doing. So if her back door does not open between 6 and 8 o'clock, I know something's wrong, and someone can go check out and see what's happening. So you're keeping tabs without spying, which is another nice way when your family's across country.
So what are the names of some of those sensors or some of those systems that people could check out?
Oh gosh, they're all over the internet if you do
Is that
a
right?
Google search. Yeah, our member in the Boston chapter, it's through Well Aware Care. They offer several other products as well that are aging in place specific. But I can send you a list if you'd like to put it on your website after the fact of some of these.
That would be great. Yeah, that would be excellent. That I know that at one time, many years ago, I called the place that has the things around your neck.
I fall in and I can't get up.
Yeah, but in order to have it, they required that you sign that you would pay for that service until your mom or dad dies.
Wow.
And if you could never cancel it unless they died. And I didn't realize how long my mom was going to live. I for sure am glad I didn't sign up for that, because now things have changed so much. Like you said, there's so much more in technology that.
Yeah. And that's hoping that they fell and didn't pass out and knock their head and it didn't fall off their body, and they can actually hit the button. Where now these homes are so smart, like that sphere they created in Las Vegas where there's no cords, the walls are the speakers. I see like our homes of the future where our homes can just sense everything around us. And even the Toto toilets. I don't know why toilets are my topic today, but the Toto toilets, they can actually analyze things as they are flushed. So it can tell the second you're a vitamin deficient, the second you become dehydrated. And it's going to be really interesting to see where that goes with these homes of the future and the hospital at home settings where they're bringing the whole team into the home, through the PACE programs. And they do actually have cameras that are so sensitive from the other side of the room, it can read a pill bottle. It can see if the pill went in someone's mouth and they swallowed it, or if it went flying over the shoulder and they just didn't care to pick it up. That was my father-in-law's issue. He'd throw the pills, and what landed in his mouth is what he took. Horrible.
Would you say from your experience that all those tools, all this technology is being accepted enough? Or would you say that there's some hesitancy because people don't want to accept that they're getting older and that they should be doing that? What are you finding from your market research from what people talk to you about?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. Actually, a presentation I'm putting together right now.
For our next call.
Based on a theory out of Georgia State University called gerontographics. And instead of breaking people down into segments by age, it breaks them down into life experiences. So you're healthy outgoers, you're healthy, but you stay home. You're sick, but you go out all the time, or you're sick and you stay home. The healthy outgoers are the ones that are least accepting of technology, but in most cases they worked longer, so they're up on more things like Zoom and technology, so they don't feel like they need to learn anything new. Where people who are in that ailing homebound category, they're more accepting of technology because that's their access to the outside world. They're the ones that are in the VR metaverse. They're the ones that are just sucking up all of this home robotic systems, smart homes like crazy, because that keeps them feeling connected. So I think it depends on what segment they're in as to how it's being accepted.
That's going to be really interesting to watch. And what a great topic. I mean, you must think about the science and the technology that must be going into studying that right now. With 11,000 people a day becoming 65 plus, that's pretty fascinating. One of the things I'm noticing, and I see ads coming across my internet now, it must think I'm older now too, is I hate to say portable, but but elevators that you can now put into your home. I see an ad for one that's round and it's all clear, and they advertise that you can now put it into your home. You can build it, whereas it used to be that those had to be built with the house. So do you see much of that?
I do, especially in this area here in Orange County. It's exploding.
Really?
And it's one of the areas in the aging in place marketplace that is like shooting up in popularity. There's a company in Miami that happens to be one of the largest elevator installers now, because people can't leave their homes, or they don't want to, or they're priced out of markets, and they want an elevator. They don't want a stair lift. Although stair lifts now aren't the same old ugly stair lifts they used to be, but I would caution people to use an actual person trained in the aging space, because how that chair is placed at the bottom of the stairs and at the top of the stairs is so important. You don't want someone at the top of the stairs and to have to stand up and like teetering the wrong way, at the very top of stairs. So important to find a professional. But yes, that industry is taking off, but also smaller things that this is called the lift raiser, where it's light, so a companion at home can help if somebody falls, so you don't have to call the fire department every time because your husband's too large. You scoot this lightweight thing under and you crank it so easy. I could do it with my pinky finger, and it slowly raises the person up, as long as they're safe to raise, slowly brings them up. So there's a lot of really cool things out there.
Yeah, that is really fascinating. Almost like when I had a flat tire this week and they jacked up my car, kind of, and the same concept. That's fascinating. I'm definitely going to look into that.
Yeah.
We don't have a long time left, but one thing I do want to talk about is, because certainly fits in with your background and with my background, my interest level, is the subject of reverse mortgages. But let's talk about it in a broader scope. Let's say, what if someone would like to stay in their home, and maybe reverse mortgage is the only option, and they want to stay there, but maybe they need some financial help, and maybe they don't qualify, or they lose a spouse. And one of the things, Tara, that really just makes me so sad is when I see someone lose a spouse and they're forced out of their home, because all of a sudden you've lost one income, or something else has happened where one person can't work and you've lost an income, and all of a sudden they have to move. They have nowhere to go. Maybe they can't qualify, or they don't know that they can. And I think that every day I hear someone say, oh, those reverse mortgages, those are terrible, right? The state government's going to take their house away from them. Yeah. So without another call talking about reverse mortgages, what are some of the misconceptions, and what should people know today about why that might be a good solution for them, or may not?
Yes. Well, it's not for everyone. That is certainly true. And it's important to educate yourself on if that's the right tool. And maybe it's the right tool stacked with some other options as well, like VA benefits or life insurance settlements or something else out there. So, I think the biggest misconception out there is that the bank takes the home. They steal homes from little old ladies. So, it's a mortgage. You have to pay your taxes, your insurance, just like you would with a regular mortgage. But I think this is another area where we can shift people's mindsets on how to use this as a financial tool. So let's say, I'll just give you an example. Someone loses their husband or wife, their spouse, and they're in a big home. They want to downsize, right size. So they use a reverse mortgage to purchase a sixplex, where in two of them, they live in one. In one, they move in a caregiver, maybe two caregivers because they need full-time assistance. And then the others they rent out for retirement income to help them fund. So there's a lot of new, interesting ways that people are using reverse instead of the traditional refis. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but there's a lot of options. And using it for a home purchase to move near grandkids, or out of that 55 plus retirement community that wasn't actually built for 55 plus. So now you're moving to an aging in place home. A lot of people are using it for that as well.
And today I saw an ad for one that said there's a new program out that starts at 55 plus now. That's some kind of course, that I'm sure the underwriting guidelines are different, but I know that last year we were able to help a couple that had no money, they used up all the equity in their house, almost. That's not true, some of it. And they were able to buy another house. Otherwise, they would have rented the rest of their lives. And rent would have gone up and they would have been worse off and worse off. And instead, they could go buy a house out in the Inland Empire where it was cheap, pay cash for the house, and just pay their taxes and insurance.
Although it's interesting you say rent for the rest of their lives, because there are some really exciting things coming up related to rentals and housing. Like there's a group called Ageless Housing that's creating Golden Girls communities only for women. They have a shared kitchen and living quarters, but everyone else has private entries, private bedrooms. It looks like it's a lot of fun. It's launching in North Carolina. There's some other areas where the caregiver is going to be in the center of a house. It's like a spoke system, and then each individual housing unit is around the caregiver. So there's 24/7 care without being in a boarding care situation. So there's some exciting things coming down the line, and that's
the Golden Girls concept that was called Ageless Housing.
Ageless Homes. Yes,
Ageless Homes.
Send that to you later too for your website.
That would be great. That would be great. And I was on a call with you and part of the group from NAIPC, and you were talking about advocacy. And I was fascinated to hear some of the things that I never would have thought about. For example, the people in your group, and these were all people in different states, were talking to the people in politics and government in their area about some of these things that they thought would be helpful. And actually, they were talking to people who were the senior citizens, right? Who were the 55, 65, 70 plus people. And so tell us about advocacy. What are some of the things that we're trying to get past, or that we're trying to get cities to accept and make easier for this same aging in place issue?
Yes. So our advocacy committee is one of our most active, actually, at NAIPC, and one that we're really, really proud of. And it's getting a lot of traction and a lot of attention. On a federal level, we're sponsoring a bill that would provide tax benefits for people who are making aging in place improvements to their homes. So that's something we've been working on, 6 years, 7 years, 8 years. It takes a long time. The first time we failed in our efforts, but it's not a failure. It is a learning experience. And we got all of the notifications from the Senate Budget Committee, everything that we need to do. So we kind of regrouped and we're going back in again. We have the same sponsors, so we're sponsoring that legislation federally. But then locally, a lot of our members are just addressing issues that their seniors are, addressing in their state. So there's a lot of little local grants that help with home modifications, or keeping the heat on in the wintertime, or in the South, making sure homes are air conditioned, or electricity is kept on during hurricanes. So there's a lot of little grants like that are out there that, using those websites that I mentioned earlier, the Benefits Checkup and the benefits.gov, those two resources can connect you with everything in your area related to even just helping with utilities, paying utilities, getting a special on your taxes. Those are things that we're really supporting, promoting, and just making it a little bit easier for older adults through legislation and zoning efforts.
And let's squeeze in also, in our last few minutes, transportation.
Yes.
Now, this is not the call, but it's definitely the conversation. Mom or dad, give me your keys.
Yes.
So what happens with that? And what other things do you see in transportation?
Well, something that I talk about a little bit in the book, and they're popping up everywhere, is driver assessment centers. So this is a great way that you can actually use science to help you as a family support, and as the individual, right? Maybe your family wants you to stop driving and you don't need to, and you know it, but no one's going to believe you. Now you have the science behind you. They do a cognitive assessment. You get behind the wheel. They hook you up to this system, and you have a track record. And so then you can be honest with yourself, because that's half of the battle of aging in place, right? Is being honest with yourself and your needs and the trajectory of where you're going or your diagnosis. So I love that there's that you can use. But there's also, this is a conversation where it can be gradual. It can be, oh, I noticed you don't like to drive at night anymore. Maybe if you want to go somewhere after 5, I'll take you, and slowly start coming to a place that makes sense for that particular individual. And worst case scenario, blame it on your doctor. All your loved ones' doctors say they're not safe to drive anymore. Can you do an assessment? And then the doctor has to send a letter in, and it is reversible. The doctor can send a letter to the DMV to have it reversed, but like worst case, make it somebody else's fault. And they're used to it. They say, make it my fault. So that's always an option.
And what are some of the transportation options? I think I saw one, go-go grandparents or something like that.
Yes, I love go-go grandparents. So that's really a concierge service for folks who are maybe a little bit too scared to go directly to Uber or Lyft, or they have some other kind of needs, or they have medical equipment where they need a larger vehicle, or they always want the same driver. Go-go grandparent can set that up for them for a pretty low monthly subscription rate. They also run errands. So it could be like Uber Eats. The go-go grandparents will go to the pharmacy, will go to the grocery store, do little errand, take your dog to the mobile vet, whatever needs to be done. So I love those options. And then there are a lot, the senior centers have a lot of free transportation. If you call the elder care hotline, that can tell you other organizations in your area that provide free transportation. And here in Orange County, the bus system gives free training. You can go to them or they'll come to you. And then after the training, they'll actually send somebody with you to go. Like you need someone to go to the doctor with you. They'll send someone to go to the doctor that first route and help out. So lots of options.
Nice. Lots of options and lots of information. I've made notes for our second call. And I'm sure as busy as you are and all the things you're involved in, that you'll have more information on a daily basis of what's coming. And I think this is an exploding, I hate to say exploding industry, but it's an exploding dynamic of our population. So much more, we saw, what is it, the blue cities or something, and the cities that are more senior friendly and so forth. It has been a pleasure having you today. You're a wealth of information, and there's so much more we could talk about. And also something I've heard about is universal design in home design. And also, just 1 second, if anyone would like to have an Aging in Place Conversations book free, just you can, do you want to give them your email address? And
Sure.
Or why don't you give my email address? My email is very easy. It's Valerie@ValerieV.com. Say you heard about us on the show and you want the Aging in Place book written by Tara Ballman, and I will be sure that you get a free copy of Aging in Place Conversations. You can see I started reading it, and it is full of information.
Yeah, and in the back, there's a resource section that breaks down the 5 pillars that I mentioned with QR codes, so it takes you directly.
Lots of QR codes.
And so, yeah, all of the resources I mentioned are there, and much, much more.
Thank you very much for an enjoyable and educational, informational hour. Thank you so much for joining Always Ageless with Valerie V.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Thank you. Bye-bye.